Okay, join me on page 168 in your science textbook. Let's go ahead and get started right at the top. Why does heat flow from one object to another? When you put your hand into warm water, energy moves to your hand because the water is warmer than your hand. The opposite is also true. When you put your hand into cold water, energy passes out of your hand into the cold water. Energy is transferred from one object to another because of differences in temperature. Heat flow is the transfer of energy from a warmer object to a cooler object. Heat energy always flows from a higher temperature material to a lower temperature material. That is why the plastic bag became warm when it was placed into the beaker of warm water in the illustration below. So let's take a look at the illustration below really quickly. It says measuring heat flow, and you see this is the start, and you have a plastic bag with a thermometer in it, and the plastic bag is at 60 degrees, and the water outside the plastic bag is at 80 degrees. You can see the difference in the two thermometers. And then an hour later, they have equalized. So the energy has kind of passed through, and now they're both at 70 degrees. So the plastic bag has been heated up slightly, and the water outside the plastic bag has been cooled. So it's all the same temperature now. And that is the heat flow, the heat being transferred from the beaker to the plastic bag. All right, continuing on that last paragraph on page 168, follow along. When someone who has a fish tank brings a new fish home from the store, the fish often comes in a small plastic bag, partly filled with water. It is important to balance the temperature of the water in the bag with the temperature of the water in the tank. That way, the fish is not harmed. To balance the temperature, many people place the plastic bag in the tank. After an hour or so, the water in the bag will be about the same temperature as the water in the tank. Then it will be safe to pour that water and the fish into the tank. Wow, I didn't know that. We did some experiments with fish a couple years ago, and we did not do that, so we probably gave our fish a bit of a shock. Kind of like jumping into a cold pool. It's that shock. And if you're a really small fish, that shock can be enough to do some damage. Okay, page 169, how heat travels. What happens when you dip a metal spoon into a steaming bowl of soup? The heat from the hot liquid causes the molecules in the spoon to heat up and vibrate faster. They collide with the molecules next to them, which in turn start vibrating faster, and so on, all the way up the spoon. Eventually, the extra energy reaches the top of the spoon. If you touch the spoon, it will feel hot. Heat energy has flowed from the hot soup to the top of the spoon to your hand. A thermometer uses heat flow to measure the temperature of a material. Most thermometers measure temperature by using a liquid that expands in warmer materials and contracts in cooler materials. When a thermometer is placed in something warmer or cooler, heat flows between the two until their temperatures are equal. The liquid inside the thermometer then registers the same temperature as the material it is in. Okay, turning the page to page 170. What is insulation? Have you ever wondered why some objects feel colder than others? For example, touch the metal leg of a desk or a chair. Then touch the wooden surface of a desk or a bookcase. So you can do that now with your own desk. Feel the metal part of your desk, and then feel the top part of your desk. The metal feels colder than the wood, and I just did it here at my own desk, and yeah, it's true of even my desk. Touching a cold object transfers heat from your body to the object. The effect on the object depends on whether it is a conductor or an insulator. A conductor is an object that absorbs heat and distributes it evenly throughout an object. Most metals are good conductors. They absorb heat and distribute it evenly throughout an object. Since the object heats slowly, it takes time before a change can be observed. So when you touch the metal on your desk, are you feeling a conductor or an insulator? And then the opposite question, when you touch the top of your desk, do you think you're feeling a conductor or an insulator? An insulator is an object that absorbs heat but does not distribute it evenly. Wood is an example of an insulator. If you place your hand on a piece of wood, the area under your hand warms up. However, the temperature of the rest of the wood does not change. Insulation. Insulation is used to prevent heat from flowing into or out of a material. You insulate something by wrapping it with a material that is not a good conductor of heat. Think of a window or the walls in a building. On a cold day, the insulation in the walls keeps the heat inside. Because heat does not move well through the insulation, the heat does not warm up the entire wall. And you can see the vacuum bottle uses insulation as well. That's like those cups that you or your parents may put coffee in, and when you grab the coffee mug or the coffee cup, you don't feel that hotness of the coffee because it's an insulator. All right, thanks again for watching, and I will see you on the next one. Continue on your science now.